For their commander, the Andals chose a young knight by the names of Ardys Arryn. Sir Ardys had been born in the Vale beneath the mountain called the Giant's Lance. Like King Robber, Sir Ardys was a formidable warrior and military commander and was an able and cunning leader. As an anointed knight, Sir Ardys had made up his own sigil of a blue falcon against a white moon on sky blue, and because of this, Sir Ardys was dubbed as the Falcon Knight. After accepting the task of stopping King Robber and his forces, Sir Ardys led his army to attack King Robber's army that had been positioned at the foot of the Giant's Lance. In the battle that would be named the Battle of the Seven Stars, thousands of mounted Andal knights charged at the armies of the First Men, that were mostly afoot but had the advantage of the high ground, and several battle fortifications. In this bloody battle, the Andal knights charged up the ground that was held by the First Men 6 times, but they were repelled each time. On the 7th charge of the Andals, it is written that a gigantic Andal knight named Sir Torgold Tollet broke through the lines of the First Men, killing notable First Men commanders in the process. This emboldened the Andals to pour through the breach, and it seemed all was lost for the First Men, until King Robber led a countercharge against the Andals. With Lady Forlorn in hand, the Bronze King cut down Sir Torgold, and he then charged at the Falcon Knight, who had also taken to the field. And in the brief fight that ensued, the Bronze King killed Sir Ardys. This must have seemed like victory to King Robber, but it was not the case, for with the sound of war trumpets, the real Sir Ardys Arryn came down the Giant's Lance with 500 fresh warriors and hit the forces of the First Men in the rear. The army of the First Men was utterly destroyed, and though King Robber fought valiantly, he was eventually killed by Sir Jaime Corbray, who reclaimed Lady Forlorn for his house that had been taken by King Robber after he had killed King Quail Corbray. After the death of King Robber, Sir Ardys Arryn was crowned as the King of the Mountains and the Moon, and all the noble houses of the First Men that had survived the Battle of the Seven Stars were ordered to bend the knee. The victory of Sir Ardys encouraged more Andals to sail from Andalos to Westeros, and they would settle all over the Vale, and those First Men that still resisted the Andal settlers were either defeated or driven from their lands. These First Men, that would go on to be called the Mountain Clans, or Wildlings, would migrate to the high valleys and picks of the Mountains of the Moon, and they resorted to all manner of savagery in order to sustain themselves. The first sit the Arryn kings set up was the Gates of the Moon, which is a fairly large castle that sits at the foot of the Giant's Lance. King Ardys constructed the Gates of the Moon to be a strong, formidable castle that would be able to withstand any attack, but it lacks the elegance Highgarden and Casterly Rock have. Though King Ardys cared little about the appearance of his castle, his descendants were less contented with it, and King Ardys' successor, Roland I Arryn, would start the construction of a more fitting sit atop the Giant's Lance, and this castle would go on to be called the Eyrie. King Roland would never see the Eyrie in its full glory, for it took near 100 years for the castle to be completed. King Roland's great-grandson, Roland II, even abandoned the construction of the Eyrie, for he diverted funds allocated for the construction of the castle to support his war efforts in the Riverlands. King Roland II was unsuccessful in his endeavors in the Riverlands, for he was defeated and beheaded by King Tristopher V Mudd. King Roland's brother, Robin I Arryn, resumed the construction of the Eyrie upon becoming king, but even Robin did not get to see the Eyrie completed. For another 43 years would pass until the castle was fully fit for habitation. Once completed, the Eyrie stood as the most beautiful and arguably the most impregnable castle in the whole of Westeros, though it is the smallest of all the high sits in the Seven Kingdoms. The kings of the Vale would there onwards use the Eyrie as their capital, but due to its high elevation, the Arryns had to abandon it every winter. This incredible castle has never fallen to any form of attack, for an enemy has to first assail the Gates of the Moon, which is no small task. If the Gates of the Moon is taken, the assailant must then climb up a narrow, steeped path that leads to the Eyrie. The path itself is guarded by three-way castles called Stone, Snow, and Sky. If the assailant manages to overcome each of the three-way castles, then they have to climb up a 600 feet sheer cliff in order to reach the Eyrie. It is therefore safe to say that taking the Eyrie is a near impossible task.
Give me 10 good men and some climbing spikes. I'll impregnate the bitch.
One of the biggest challenges the Arryn kings faced were the endless attacks from the mountain clans and would-be conquerors from the Riverlands. The Arryn kings would defend their realm from these mountain clans and other invaders by securing the High Road, which is the main route used to enter the Vale. This was done by King Osric V Arryn, who reconstructed the Bloody Gate, which is the gateway into the Vale, into a formidable fortification that could not easily fall to attack. And this proved vital for over the many centuries of Arryn rule over the Vale. The Bloody Gate helped the Knights of the Vale to fend off many a would-be conqueror. The Arryn kings also secured the coastline of the Vale by raising defense towers and castles to stop any invasions. The kings of the Mountain and the Moon also helped to develop Gulltown to become one of the great cities in Westeros. Some 4,000 years before the start of the current events, the Arryn kings would get into conflicts with the kings of Winter over the possession of the Three Sisters. The Three Sisters are 3 islands in the Gulf called the Bight, and this gulf lies between the Vale and the north. The people living on the Three Sisters had been ruled by pirate kings and reavers for thousands of years, and such rulers had caused havoc in the Bight and raided the coastlines of the north and the Vale. The kings of Winter were the first to attack the Three Sisters, and the Northerners under King Theon Stark would eventually conquer these islands, though their brutal rule over these isles is infamously dubbed as the Rape of the Three Sisters. Some lords from the sisters that were able to escape sought the help of King Mathos Arryn, who was more than glad to fight the Starks. King Mathos raised a fleet and sailed to war, and his forces would gain victory over the Starks, but King Mathos was killed in battle. The defeated Starks would launch other invasions to retake the Three Sisters, and over a period of 1,000 years, a seemingly endless war, dubbed the Worthless War, would be fought between the Arryn kings and the Stark kings over who would control these islands, with both sides gaining the islands, only to lose them again. In one of the most brutal conflicts, the Knights of the Vale retook the sisters and used the Isles as a launching point to attack and burn the Wolf's Den, and the Knights of the Vale would then raid along the White Knife. The Kings of Winter retaliated by raising their own fleet, attacked the sisters and subdued them. Using the sisters as a base, the Northerners then raided along the coast of the Vale and attacked Gulltown, killing every sailor they could find and burning all ships in the harbor. The Knights of the Vale would eventually reclaim the sisters, mostly because the Starks lost interest in these islands, and the Three Sisters would remain under the rule of the Arryns ever since. The rule of the Arryn kings came to an end with Aegon Targaryen's conquest of Westeros, for one of the conqueror's sister wives, Queen Visenya Targaryen, flew over the mighty defenses of the Eyrie atop her dragon Vhagar, and landed in the courtyard of the Eyrie, where she forced the Queen Regent of the Vale, Shara Arryn, to yield up her son's kingship over the Vale of Arryn. After the Arryns bent the knee, they would serve the Targaryens faithfully for near 300 years, and in this period, the Arryns and the Targaryens would even join in matrimony twice. For Lord Roderick Arryn married one of the conciliator's daughters called Princess Daela Targaryen. Later on, their only child, Lady Aemma Arryn, would also marry into House Targaryen, for she was married to Prince Viserys Targaryen, who would go on to become the king. And Lady Aemma and Prince Viserys would go on to sire one child they named Rhaenyra Targaryen. House Arryn fought for Queen Rhaenyra during the Dance of the Dragons, and after the war, Lady Jane Arryn, who was the Lady of the Vale during this time, would serve as one of the regents of King Aegon the Younger. The Arryns would prove their loyalty to the Targaryens yet again during the Blackfyre rebellions, for they fought valiantly for King Daeron the Good against Daemon the First Blackfyre, and later on they fought for King Jaehaerys II against Maelys the Monstrous. But House Arryn rebelled against House Targaryen during the rule of King Aerys II, and they helped to overthrow the Targaryen dynasty. After Lord Robert's great victory at the Battle of the Trident, the Lord of the Vale, John Arryn, would serve as Hand of the King for near 15 years, but he was murdered when he discovered the truth about Queen Cersei's children. The rule of House Arryn then passed to Lord John's sickly son, Robert Arryn, but due to his young age, Robin's mad mother, Lysa Arryn, would rule in his place as regent until her death at the hands of her new husband, Lord Peter Baelish. In current events, the future of House Arryn hangs in the balance, for the vile Lord Baelish, who is the Lord Protector of the Vale, wishes for the death of Lord Robert Arryn so that his bastard daughter, Elaine Stone, who is secretly Lady Sansa Stark, can marry the arrogant and possibly dangerous heir of the Eyrie, Sir Harold Harding. The only person who can save Lord Robert and preserve the Arryn dynasty is Lady Sansa Stark. But will Sansa be able to outfox one of the most dangerous men in Westeros? It's only in the Winds of Winter that the answer to that question lies. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment and subscribe to the channel.